Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Movie Mates podcast. I am Matthew, joined by my wonderful co-host and best friend,
Callum.
Hey man, lovely to see you. So today it's the 4th of February, and it's my birthday, and Callum has very kindly given me some birthday presents to open,
which I delivered at a masked social distance.
Yes, socially distanced birthday present swap. Expect in the next couple of weeks when luckily and coincidentally Callum's birthday is also this month, so we're gonna be doing like present openings and on podcasts, and Callum has told me one of them is Disney sort of related, sort of kind of, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very excited.
Okay. Okay. So we're gonna do that now, I think.
Okay.
I'd like to see you open the big present first, and this is
the box.
This is a fragile one.
The box.
Yeah, the box one.
Okay. So and, Callum has got me this lovely box.
I felt very confident about the idea. How it's been executed, not so much.
Yeah, honestly, I'm so excited.
We'll see.
This is it.
It's very fragile as well.
I'm so excited. It feels
it's
like
currently
Christmas
upside down,
already.
I think, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool. So, Callum has wrapped this very well. Apologies if this interrupts your audio viewers. My wrapping is not very good. Sorry,
I think your wrapping's lovely. I mean, it is in
so we've got
very feminine paper. I've covered the front in wrapping paper because it had my name and address on it. I couldn't find another box that was the same size.
So opening this, guys. I'm so excited. What is this? What is this? No way!
Do you like it?
Yeah, that is absolutely incredible. Oh, sorry. To show the viewers, it is a Beatles Abbey Road clock. I mean, that is where'd you get that? That is amazing.
There's a few websites, but the one that this is the only place where you could get it, and it had the numbers on it. And I thought, if you want an actual functional clock, the numbers are pretty integral.
Dude, I absolutely love that. It's like a vinyl record. It's got the John, Paul, George, and Ringo at the top. It's got the green apple from Abbey Road. That is absolutely nuts.
I thought it might work. Like there were a few options, but I thought this would work best with your walls because the negative space creates like the zebra crossing.
Oh yes! Oh, the zebra cross as well. Oh my god! I put up on my white wallpaper and it looks amazing. I've got a Sergeant Pepper poster over there that is going right beside that. Mate, thank you so much.
I've also I have given you batteries in the box.
Oh yes, batteries. Saw that as well. Mate, I absolutely love that. That is incredible. That is going up straight tonight.
So as soon as you pop like the battery in the back, the second clock starts ticking, but you can change the minute clock with the like beige dial on the back.
Oh, dude, that is incredible. Thank you so much. Honestly, that is.
I'm glad you like it.
It's made my night.
The second one you may not want to show the camera. You can decide.
Okay, is this the little box?
It's a joke. It's a joke, and I'll explain more off the podcast what I plan to do with it. Because I can't say.
I have no idea what this is. It's covered in bubble wrap for the viewers here.
I think it's a mistake. Like it just came to me one night, but I don't know. As soon as I got it, I was like, is he gonna hate this?
For the viewers who listen to the podcast, it's like a fringe. I think it's like a magnet with all my cinematic crushes, and front and center is Abby Mallard. Dude, it's got Olivia Munn. It's got a very attractive Olivia Munn and Minka Kelly on him in 5 Days Summer. Mate, that is absolutely nuts.
Like there was a moment, like, of course I've left university and like just whenever I was taking a significant amount of time out of my day to find the hottest picture of Olivia Munn, I was sort of like, what am I doing with my life?
Dude, I absolutely love that. So yeah, if viewers are familiar with the podcast, we know that I have quite a few cinematic crushes. Of course, Olivia Munn, Minka Kelly, and then Abby Mallard from Chicken Little. Mate, that is absolutely hilarious. I love that so much. It's funny. That's a magnet, isn't it? So I have like a magnetized board there that is going straight up there.
Okay.
That is class.
Yeah, I didn't know that was the thing that I said to you. I don't know if you have the means to display it.
Dude, I do. I absolutely do.
Drawer
oh man, that is hilarious. I'm just gonna have that just there we are, just facing me. That is absolutely brilliant. You must have had to customize that. That is class.
Yeah,
oh my god,
a
I
funky
love
pigeon.
it, dude.
Yeah,
Crazy.
weirdly enough, that one isn't just a a selection option.
Yeah, yeah. Imagine it was, mate. You've absolutely smashed it. Honest to God, I knew it was going to be good. This is even better than I thought. This is unreal. Thank you so much. And of course, we've got a lovely card here as well. And it's Disney princess themed as well. It's got Ariel and Snow White and stuff. I love it. Thank you so much, man.
This is by the way, like, I haven't just made like a weird shout. Like this is a trend amongst us.
Oh, thank you to a wonderful co-host and best friend. Thank you for making my lockdown tolerable by giving me something to look forward to each week. I really appreciate these laughs you help me with in these bleak times. Love you, brother Cal. Mate, that honestly really touches me. That is so kind of you, honestly, buddy. Thank you so much, brother. That is really, really kind of you. Really, honestly, mate. Man. Really, thank you so much, man. Honestly, that's making me really emotional. Thank you so much, dude. That is so kind. That is so, so kind. You've absolutely smashed it, bud. That's going straight up on my wall there. Thank you so much. Sir. No, mate, thank you. Honestly, you've absolutely killed it. Absolutely, mate, I absolutely love it. That is incredible. Again, you're a genius.
I was anxious about the clock because it came and the second hand was bent, but it's like really malleable, so I was able to get it right. Because like before it was like, because I tested to make sure it worked, and like whenever it was ticking, it was like slapping into the other hands and it didn't go round. So
I love it.
Just like
I absolutely love it.
Bent it a bit.
Dude, you've made my day. Honestly, that is so kind of you. Like, the joke present as well. Oh my god, I actually love it. Oh man, that is class. Absolutely unreal, mate. Thank you so much again, Callum. That is so kind of you. Really do appreciate that, man, a lot. Oh man, that was great. That was really good fun.
I completely forgot about like the fact that the card was Disney as well. So that ties into our topic today.
100%. So Disney pod. Yes, Disney.
We're on podcast. Disney part 14.
Yes, the penultimate episode of our Disney pods. We're finally getting to the end. So
Thank God.
By next week we'll have finished them. So I'll pass over to you, man, if you want to say to the viewers what films we're going to be talking about then today.
So today we're talking about Frozen, Big Hero 6, and Zootopia / Zootropolis from whatever region you're from. Here, I presume we're going to be talking about it as Zootropolis because that's of course the version that we watched.
Yeah.
But cool. I think a solid slate today.
Absolutely.
Maybe the best.
Maybe. It's definitely up there, man. It's definitely up there. I mean, I think all these three films were certainly some of the most popular Disney films ever, especially Frozen as well. I know that was a big one back in the day. But yeah, really excited to break down this really great batch of Disney films. And yeah, just before we kick off today's podcast, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on these Disney films down below. Really do appreciate that. And yeah, our Disney playlist is going to be updated as well with this one. And we've recently did our Godfather trilogy podcast as well as our third report as well. So check that out, guys, if you haven't. And yeah, I think, is the first one Frozen, dude? Yeah.
The first is Frozen, yes. And this is a film that I had very low expectations for going in because Let It Go, let's be honest, was a real dark cloud hanging over the film. Just because of, I think unless you saw it when it came out, which of course I didn't, I think, you knew what a great song it was, but hearing, the most annoying 8-year-olds that you can conceive of, screaming that in your face for probably 2 or 3 years following its release, it sort of gave me, a bad impression of it, before I'd even seen it.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think this film's got a big reputation, and almost, I think because it's so popular, I think potentially maybe that's why I was a little critical of it back in the day. I don't know, but like within this film, I mean, there's so many songs in here that are so well known, if not the most well known Disney songs. Let It Go, Do You Want to Build a Snowman, and First Time in Forever, and songs like that. Like they're all, to be fair, although Let It Go and Do You Want to Build a Snowman, like they wouldn't be songs that I would listen to in the playlist or whatever. I can acknowledge that they're fantastic songs. Like they're incredibly well made and performed.
Yeah, and I think we should talk about the characters. And the film opens with, of course, Elsa accidentally injuring her sister Anna. And it seems that Anna and Elsa's parents pay more attention to Elsa, but they seem to prefer Anna. So I don't really know why they weren't self-aware enough to realize that they shouldn't also shut her out from society. When it's not necessary whatsoever.
Yeah, 100%. And you've mentioned Elsa and Anna's parents there. Of course, I think in our Tarzan podcast, you may have mentioned that theory about, I think you had said to me
Yes.
last week about, you know, they could potentially be related to Tarzan in some way.
Yes, because you know the film Tarzan opens with you know Tarzan's parents being shipwrecked upon this island. Of course, the parents don't look alike, but also Anna and Elsa's parents allegedly died in this shipwreck.
Yeah.
So there has been a theory that, you know, Elsa and Anna's mom was pregnant, and then they had Tarzan when they made it to the island.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that's a crock of shit, you know, because
Yeah.
they don't look, you know, they don't look alike whatsoever. But you know, it's a bit of fun.
It is a bit of fun, absolutely. And you know, you mentioned the sibling dynamic there. I think having, you know, a sibling dynamic here as sort of the center stage for the film is really refreshing. Because a lot of these Disney films, they do have a very cliched romance to it, but here to have the sibling dynamic, I think it's actually quite refreshing as well for a change.
And then builds to a satisfying finale.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. Yeah.
And you know, if we want to talk a little bit about that sister dynamic, Elsa is of course quarantining herself from Anna to keep her safe because she loves her, which, you know, makes perfect sense. But what doesn't make perfect sense is how big of a dickhead she is through the door. You know, ideally, your plan for the future is to get control of your powers. You know, so in order to, you know, facilitate that future relationship, you think you'd want to at least keep that positive.
100%. And I think, you know, like you were sort of saying, they probably should have isolated both sisters rather than one, because that does create the tension. But, you know, that being said, I think part of what makes the ending so satisfying, like we were saying about that sibling dynamic, is because of the sort of their sort of contrast and their conflict, you know, throughout the film. And it's kind of a funny one, because whenever I think of Frozen, I automatically think of, you know, of course, Anna, Elsa, and probably Olaf as well. But, you know, I think this film does a really good job at like having, you know, multiple main characters, so to speak. It's not really Elsa's film because, you know, Anna has a lot to do as well. So I think the fact that they share a lot of the screen time as well helps develop them more as characters, rather than just having, you know, be it an Elsa movie and then having, you know, Anna and, you know, Kristoff and Hans be like, you know, second in the line. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And you know, you've mentioned that, and you know, most of the characters get you know, some form of musical performance in the film.
Yeah.
And it is a lot more musical than I expected. You know, I thought 2 or 3, but thankfully it is of a very high quality. That, you know, sort of reminded me of Tangled. So
yeah,
it was better than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think this movie really does feel like it is in like that Tangled sort of world. The animation is remarkably similar. The songs feel really similar as well, because with Tangled in this film, it kind of feels like someone's just like singing a normal sentence. Like there's no particular like it's not as if in some Disney songs where, you know, they've gone out of their way to make like lyrics for that song. It kind of feels like it's natural with the script. You know, we've mentioned the Tarzan films, Phil Collins. A lot of that feels like a song that, you know, it could, you know, I could listen to that and feel like it wouldn't belong in the film. You know, it just feels like a song that they just chose for the film. Of course, that wasn't the case, but here, because it feels like, you know, sentences that are just sung really beautifully, it feels it really complements the film, but also it really does feel like Tangled. So I think that's a really smart connection there. Actually, yeah,
because like Anna and Rapunzel, really, they're just singing about, you know, what they're getting up to, you know,
exactly.
whether it's,
no, 100%.
You know, she's finally being able to see people, or, you know, she's met Hans, and, you know, she's really happy about that. But a fun Easter egg is also that both Eugene and Rapunzel are seen going to the coronation at the beginning of the film.
Are they?
Which
I didn't know
is a fact that I'm aware of, but I didn't actually see because I wasn't paying enough attention to the start. Really, if I'm honest, because I went in with, you know, negative perceptions of the film.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, because of course the film's villain is Hans, who, you know, is initially presented as, you know, a romantic interest for Anna, and he seems perfectly pleasant. And I think, had I not known going in that Hans was the villain, that I never would have guessed. You know, that their sort of dorky connection seems, you know, quite real and convincing to me. So it was sort of a, you know, breakneck turn. And, you know, you saw this, I presume, when it came out.
Yeah, I completely forgot about it though. Like there was a little bits here and there where I recalled the film, but the Hans twist I think is really smart, because like you said, it does come off as a really romantic meet cute where, you know, it really does feel convincing. And I actually think that sort of that Hans twist is really smart actually. And it kind of, you know, the film does set up, of course, that sort of, you know, who's she going to choose, Kristoff or Hans sort of dynamic. And obviously, you know, I think the twist, it really does help the narrative of the film actually. You know, it really does complement, you know, Anna's Anna's got her own stuff to deal with as well as Elsa. Do you know what I mean? Like we were kind of saying, and I think maybe a lot of people were potentially a little bit let down by the film by the fact that Anna doesn't have abilities of her own. We see obviously Elsa is, like, controls ice and stuff, and for me, actually, along with the hands twist, I kind of expected them to sort of elaborate that Anna also has powers. Maybe she can control air or fire, something kind of the opposite of Elsa. What were you thinking?
Yeah, definitely, I think so, because they established that line where they say because Anna is convinced that she's going to be capable of convincing Elsa to thaw Arendelle, I think it is.
Yeah, Arendelle.
And then people say to her, you don't have the power to thaw this winter. So I knew that for a fact that there wasn't going to be powers, because I have heard a lot about this film and the sequel. But I think potentially a better idea, rather than it just being Elsa's realization that love melts snow. I feel like Anna having complementary powers. I think myself and you and other fans have wanted to see that as well.
Yeah, 100%. And we sort of mentioned there, like, about the true love helps melt the ice, which on paper that sounds quite silly, but I actually think it's really nice sort of juxtaposition to the classic depiction of true love in Shrek, where they must kiss by midnight. That being said, I actually do prefer the traditional, like, Shrek kiss by midnight, or those kind of things, but I do think here it is quite refreshing to see that it's a sibling sort of familial love that carries them through. I think that's a really nice message as well, and it really adds to like you're saying, adds to the narrative and complements Anna and Elsa really nicely. So it does.
Yeah, so I do think it is admittedly a fresher concept than Disney usually delivers, so I have to respect it for that.
Yeah.
So this actual viewing of the film is the first time I've ever heard Let It Go in its entirety and not sung by an 8-year-old. So now knowing the context, I actually think the song's fantastic.
Oh, it absolutely is. It absolutely is, mate. It's fantastic, and it's not actually my favorite. It is incredibly good, but I think my favorite is The First Time in Forever. I think Let It Go is an incredible song. I think First Time in Forever is one of my favorite Disney songs. Actually, I'm sure by the end, when we conclude our Disney pods, we'll have to rank our films, favorite, least favorite, and maybe like favorite songs and stuff. First Time in Forever has got to be up there for me. And I think one of the things about this film that is really good is that it feels unique, it feels fresh, and at the same time it doesn't feel like a classic Disney tale just because it subverts a lot of things. It subverts that Hans and Anna romance, it subverts that idea of the true love's kiss at midnight sort of thing that you were talking about. And I think one of its strengths, like we were saying, is just the characters. Like, I think it's, if I was like a young girl watching this when it came out in 2013, like I could definitely like be inspired and stuff by Anna and Elsa. Like they're really like I think maybe a lot of people were like, obviously I think this film made like $1.3 billion at the box office, dude. I mean, that is crazy for like an animated film. And I mean, I think there is a sequel to this, isn't it? Or is it like a direct-to-DVD one? But there's a sequel, yeah.
There were a couple of short sequels, but in 2019 there was an official Frozen 2. So we'll be talking about that in about 2 weeks.
Nice one. Awesome. Cool.
So as you sort of mentioned, this is a very unique film, and I found myself not always gravitating towards animated films, and I think that's maybe because I like watching a performance. I like seeing when we talked about The Godfather Part 3, Al Pacino's performance is incredible, and I think frequently you don't get that just from hearing someone's voice.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what's unique about this film is that in the moments where like Elsa is alone in her ice castle, which is perhaps the dumbest sentence I've said on this podcast, there is raw emotion there, and I think there's a physicality to the performance that almost feels like you're watching something in live action.
It absolutely does. It feels like you're watching like a play or something like that, when she even goes through that physical transformation and like, in that ice dress and stuff. And I think it really does. It feels very powerful for an animated film, actually. It's got a lot of deep themes in there as well. And I absolutely agree, mate. It feels like you're watching something live action where you can sort of be taken aback by how like powerful that scene can be.
And we've talked a little bit about Hans, and by the end of the film, he sort of like swindled his way into a position of power, in which he charges Elsa with treason. Quite confident you can't charge a queen with treason. They have sovereign immunity. I mean, I genuinely don't understand how the monarchy works, in
No,
this
I have no
universe
idea.
or any other, because
Yeah.
previously, you become the king just by like winning a battle.
Yeah, like killing the other
like
king, pretty much, isn't it?
yeah, so I mean, I guess Hans could have just waged official war, under that,
Yeah.
under that sort of act, and then killed Elsa. But
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like him charging the queen with treason. Don't know if that's
I
possible.
know. It always feels like in these Disney films, if there's like a royal family plot line, the simplest answer always just is to straight out kill them, even though that might be a bit dark for the kids' film. Like there's always some secret espionage in there, or some sort of treachery where in Han's case, he pretends to be a lovely guy and sort of propose and marry Anna. But I think it is quite a similar story, isn't it? To I think I don't know if you've seen I think you have seen Shrek 2, haven't you? Where Prince
Yeah, of course.
Charming tries to sort of convince Fiona that he is like a nice guy and that he's actually Shrek.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of really a little bit reminded me of that, where like he tries to convince her that he's a nice guy. And yeah, maybe that's the reason why I like this film so much. It feels like a Shrek tale, so to speak. I don't know if that sounds weird, because obviously you've got like trolls in there as well. But I don't know. It felt really nice.
And we'll of course be covering all of the DreamWorks animated filmography as soon as we're done with Disney. So look forward to that. I think Shrek was one of the very early ones, to kick off that.
Some of my favorites.
Kick off, that filmography. So we'll be talking about it someday soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I sort of mentioned that I did find the concept of the climax a bit cheesy, but I really liked its execution. And I would have rather seen that Anna had the powers of summer as opposed to Elsa's winter.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that is something that may be explored in the future, but it would have been nice to see. But nonetheless, I really enjoyed this film.
100%. I 100% agree. I think it might be elaborated in the sequel. I haven't seen the sequel, so I'm excited to see where they go with it, to be honest. Have you got any more comments on Frozen, dude?
Nothing else from me, Matthew. Anything
nice
further
one.
from you?
Nothing from me, Callum. I'd love to hear your rating for this one, dude. I think it's going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's a very high quality amongst the sort of hit and miss standard of the Disney filmography that we've talked about so far. I would say, I sort of went through every film the other day, and I would say I liked about 50%, and 50% stinkers. So this is at the top tier of the ones I did enjoy. So again, it's an issue where you have to reflect on how highly you've marked other things, and you're like, is this a fair way to say, is this better than that film? So I'd probably give the film an 8.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I have an 8 down here written in my notes. I think the tune's incredible as well. I think I really misjudged this film back in the day. But I think this one really refreshing. Love the sibling dynamic, and I'm really excited for the sequel to watch that and stuff. I think it could be a really great continuation of that story. But yeah, an 8 for me as well. Really, really strong film. The next film, I'm not sure. It's either Big Hero 6 or Zootropolis. Is it Big Hero 6?
It is Big Hero 6. Could I quickly grab a drink?
Of course you can, bud. Nice one.
So to move on to Big Hero 6, this film is a film that I actually managed to see in person in the cinema when it came out.
Oh, nice
but
one.
I have watched it very recently, and this watch today was maybe the 5th time I've seen it. So I feel like I was a bit reluctant to watch it, and I wasn't really excited. And being one of the few Disney films that I saw as a child, I know I loved it then, and I love it now. But I don't know, I was a bit sick of it. But I feel like I don't know how you get that. How you don't get that. When you watch 500 Days of Summer all the time. Because I think if I watched my favorite film, as often as you do, I feel like I would get sick of even that.
Dude, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember Big Hero 6. It was on during Christmas time. When TV channels put on movies for New Year's Day and Christmas Eve and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I watched it then, and I mean this film, it's not that my enjoyment decreased for it. I still absolutely love this film. It's just, I think once you do watch a movie a lot of times, obviously it becomes predictable. What's going to happen. But I think one of the strengths of this film is it's just so well paced for me. It's incredible. It's one of my favorite Disney films, and I think the fact it's the only superhero one really adds that uniqueness and quality for me.
Yeah, I did, honestly. I do love this film, but I did have to really force myself to watch this just for the sake of note taking. So I wasn't paying much attention, and I was just there to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
But if we want to talk about the narrative of the film, we open with Hero, performing a little hustle, where he tries to get money from bot fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that hustle works exactly one time in that venue. he wants to build this as like a long-term career. Don't think that's going to work for him.
Yeah,
If
it's
they're
illegal,
all,
isn't it?
if betting on bot fighting is illegal, there's probably a handful of venues that will actually allow that to take place.
Yeah,
So yeah, I don't know how frequently he's going to be able
yeah.
to do that.
It's kind of an unusual thing to be illegal, isn't it? Bot fighting, like they don't seem to be doing much harm. Maybe because it's
I
like
think it's I
underage.
think it's
I
the
don't know.
fact that they're betting on it, and I think any place where you're doing any form of gambling without a license is illegal. So I
Oh
guess it's
yeah,
just in
true.
that vein.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point. And we've sort of mentioned like this bot fighting occurs, and it occurs in the city called San Francisco, I think, which I think is a really great concept. It's a really great mix of Japanese culture and of course American culture. Like I think that's one of the strengths of
Mhm.
this film. Hiro and Tadashi, they're fantastic characters, and that sibling dynamic similar to Frozen. It's really strong. I wish Tadashi was in it more though. I really do.
Yeah, I really do. And of course, yeah, as you mentioned, we're introduced to Tadashi almost as quickly as we are Hero.
Mm-hmm.
And they're both presented as boy geniuses. And quite honestly, speaking from experience, two equally smart siblings is an anomaly. Don't think that happens.
Yeah.
I think you get in a family one genius and that's it.
Yeah, like the one potluck, I suppose. The one
Yeah, like when it comes to intelligence, I don't think genes are applicable.
I
I feel
think
like you get one genius in a family.
because yeah, in this film, Hero and Tadashi
I'm not
clearly are
talking about
geniuses.
myself, by the way.
No,
But
no, I know.
just to put that out there, not
Uh,
talking about myself.
with Hero and Tadashi, they're clearly both geniuses, aren't they? And I think I think the fact that did the film almost seem like, I know it's a kids film, of course it's not supposed to be realistic, but did it almost feel a little bit too unrealistic that this kid who's like 13 or 14 makes this invention that is clearly like would shape the earth for like hundreds of years with the microbots? Like it seemed like too good of an idea to make. Do you know what I mean? Compared
Yeah,
to
but it
everyone
also
else.
doesn't really seem like his idea because I mean he's just taken Callahan's invention and made it smaller. Like that's not an invention in its own right. It's an application of someone else's technology.
That's so
So I mean
true.
they like he's like, you stole my microbots. I'm like, you stole his concept of technology. Go fuck
100%.
yourself.
Yeah, and one thing about this film, I think the dead parents cliche is really running thin now, isn't it? It's like every
Yeah,
film at this point is.
and like this film is like laden with exposition, and just at the start of the film, like the exposition dumps are painful, but like watching it as an adult, it's very funny. Like
Yeah.
when Hiro says to Tadashi, they died when I was 3. Remember? Yeah, I bet he does.
Yeah.
Probably there. You
Probably,
know.
yeah, probably. I'd like to think he remembers. He's their son. But we've mentioned the microbots there. That being said, I think they do make for release, like they make for some great action in the film. And it's weird because I think the film's pacing, it's really quick, isn't it? I mean, Tadashi dies really early on as well.
And it's dark.
It is very dark. It's very, very dark. You're right.
I would say we don't really get to see. There's the Disney universe is essentially a graveyard. Their parents
I love
dead,
that.
the villains always die, but
Yeah.
you never really see it. I would say the worst death that we've seen visually that would be upsetting is probably Mother Gothel. Where we just see her slow fall to the ground and then just get splattered.
Yes,
But
I
like I
know.
feel like Tadashi's death is the most brutal that we've
Is
seen.
because he's such a nice guy. Like I thought the voice actor really sounded like Jake Johnson to me. I almost thought it was, but no. But yeah, I mean, his death is devastating. And did upon rewatch, did the Callahan slash Cray twist, did it seem predictable to you? Because I think going in, maybe when I first watched it, I wasn't expecting it, but then when you think about it, the signs are definitely there, aren't they?
To be honest, I think his means for revenge comes out of nowhere. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
because you see there's a sort of tension between him and Alistair Cray, but you don't know what that is until probably 2/3 into the film.
Yeah.
So at the point where they see the video of his daughter disappearing and him, coming in and being aggressive towards Cray, yeah, I think that's where I would have clocked it if I didn't know already.
100%, 100%, I agree.
But I think coming into it, if I saw the guy, the masked man,
Yeah.
the first appearance of that guy, that would have never occurred to me.
Yeah, no, agreed. And you're right. I think the reason for Callahan's sort of vengeance is it does come out of nowhere with with his daughter and stuff like that. It kind of reminded me of Ant-Man and the Wasp, stuck in the quantum zone, so to speak. But no, I thought it was good. I thought it was really good.
And Callahan clearly wants revenge for his daughter, and he wants to presumably kill Alistair Cray or torture him, in the way that he feels he has been. But I mean, he doesn't even know that Hero wants to stop him before he's willing to kill a child and all of his previous students. Like, like at that point in time, where he's just trying to figure out what's going on because he assumes he's responsible for the fire, which we never actually found out who was responsible for the fire. I presume just an accident because we're not told otherwise. But at that point, Hero's just kicking about. He's not doing anything to try and stop them.
Yeah, he's just
and the guy throws cars at them, and he tries to drown them. And I'm like,
what's going on?
He's like, Honey Lemon tells us that before his daughter disappeared, he seemed like a very pleasant man, and he seemed like a very pleasant man, at the when Hero first meets him, and then at the exhibition. Yeah. So I mean, just for him to go like full blown like Obadiah Stane psycho, basically for no reason. Yeah, it was a bit odd.
Yeah, and you mentioned Honey Lemon there. Honey Lemon's got to be my fave in this film. She's adorable. I love her. Matthew definitely had a crush on her back in the day as well. I gotta be honest.
Me too. I have to be honest. Yeah,
I did. I just did. But yeah, I mean, I think that the side characters here are actually really strong as well. They don't get a lot of character development, but I think it's a really smart decision to have them. I'm not sure, is this film based on a comic book or not? Because I know it's related to Marvel in some sense. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is based on a comic book by Man of Action, I think.
Okay.
And yeah, I definitely agree with you. This is, I think, the most charming ensemble that I've seen, and definitely Disney film, and potentially, one of the most charming in all the films that I've seen. Because I mean, of course, there's better ensembles, with better actors, but this film is, I think, one where you love all of them, as you said, despite the limited screen time, limited development. And I was surprised that we talked about the fact that whether we would have clocked that that the Masked Man was Callahan, but in this film they sort of convinced themselves that it may be Alistair Cray. And I think everybody knows for a fact that the billionaires do not do their own dirty work.
Yes,
if he really wanted something done, he'd pay to have it done.
Yeah, if the Godfather trilogy taught us anything, Callum, is that Vito Corleone very rarely gets his hands dirty. He always sends his goons, or his capos after people. So yeah, I mean, Cray. I think, I don't know. I'd love to see a sequel to this film to see what they do. Like, I'd love to see if they could potentially have another villain twist in there as well, but I'm not sure.
There's a follow-up TV series, which is
cool.
I think canonical, because there's a Tangled follow-up series, but I don't think it's considered canonical.
Yeah.
But pretty much, this is the same universe, that TV show, which I'd be inclined to watch, because obviously the animation is 2D rather than 3D, so it's a bit of a jarring experience. Yeah. But I have to imagine the storytelling's there, and the voice cast is almost exactly the same.
Well, that's a nice one. I mean, I think one character we haven't mentioned yet too is everyone's everyone's favorite, I think, in this film is Baymax. And of course, obviously by the end, not by the end, but just before the end, we see that he's sacrificing himself. And it's got to be honest, like, that definitely is emotional even now, that scene.
Yeah,
it's really heart-wrenching. And that being said, though, evil Baymax is terrifying. He scares the shit out of me.
Yeah, I don't think that a film has ever made me care about a robot before, let alone this much. And I think the biggest praise that I could give the film is that it's able to make me feel. That 100%. Is one more emotional death that I've ever seen, and it's a robot. Like, I shouldn't give a shit.
Oh, completely.
But I would say my favorite part of the film, and we talk a lot about montages here, because I think we're both a fan of that, because it's a really effective way of showing a passage of time, without having to spare a lot of runtime.
Oh, it is. Absolutely.
And I think the suit upgrade sequence set to Immortals by Fall Out Boy may be my favorite montage ever. There's this, and there's Captain America: The First Avenger.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, the Rocky 2 one is still my favorite, but I think here it's definitely up there. I mean, the Fall Out Boy song is incredible as well. And yeah, like, I think the fact that it becomes sort of like it becomes more of a superhero movie as it goes on is a real strength to it, but it doesn't really feel like a cliched superhero movie. Like, it feels really authentic, and like we're kind of saying, but it really does make you care about the characters. And yeah, I also think the fact that the hero character as well, I think the fact that he's kind of not a part of the group when the group first starts out, it kind of gives the movie an excuse to introduce all these characters rather than have them all be a group from the start, from the get-go. So I think it's a real strong point as well. I think it kind of reminds me of, this is such a silly comparison, but you know, when Riverdale first started in season 1, like Archie and Jughead had fallen out off screen before it even started, so you kind of had to introduce them separately rather than have them be like a cohesive group who all got along beforehand. So I think the fact that they don't all know each other is really helpful, actually. Yeah. Just with
is Rocky 2 really your favorite montage in that franchise?
Oh yeah, I absolutely love it. To be fair, the Rocky 4 one is good as well. The Ivan Drago one.
Yeah, Rocky 4. I mean, this is irrelevant. Rocky 4. Brings him out of his surroundings. Forces him to train in Russia. But I think nothing tops Rocky 3, and the shot of like the homoeroticism of just the shot of the two of them like running half naked across the beach. It's one of the funniest scenes I've ever seen. What is the Rocky 2 one like?
The Rocky 2 one is it doesn't sound good on paper. It's like when all the kids are chasing after him in Philadelphia, but it's just the way that just Rocky sprints past all of them. I absolutely love. Like,
I suppose it shows that he's inspired people because before in the first film that was his idea, that was the thought behind it, but to see actually in action, I suppose you see it in that moment. I fully respect that. So in this film we've mentioned evil Baymax caused by Hero's programming. And I don't really know why anyone stopped Hero from killing Callahan, because it would have been a dick move for Hero to make Baymax do that. But also Callahan, I guess in that moment, Hero associated, Callahan with the responsibility behind Tadashi's death, even though we know now, based on the flashback, that he had nothing to do with the fire.
Yeah, I know. I think it would have been a really interesting kind of dynamic there as well to kind of have it would have been very dark if Hero would have killed Callahan in cold blood, wouldn't it? Though it would have been I would have liked
the fist splattering his head.
Yeah, I know, literally. But yeah, one thing I really didn't like is that Hero rebuilds Baymax.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I would have respected it if they just killed him off. I really would have.
Yeah, because I think the happiness of Baymax being back doesn't outweigh how lazy and cheap that resurrection is. Like I think a poignant death, would have been, in the style of like Bing Bong from Inside Out, where it really makes you feel something. Yeah. To know that the film had serious connotations, I feel like would have made it stronger.
Yeah, and to quote the general dude in Man of Steel, a good death is its own reward, Disney, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, I don't have any other remarks on Big Hero 6, but anything from yourself?
Just a couple. Callahan, his reasoning behind resenting Cray is that he knew he claims that Cray knew the risks of interdimensional travel. Do you really think interdimensional travel will ever be safe? I mean, your daughter is a full-grown woman who knew the risks. Like, you shouldn't blame anyone but her. Yeah. Like, I feel like having an actual like murderous rage for not only Cray and anyone who stands in his way. I feel like that's just ridiculous. And
to not even silly, isn't it?
And to want her back so bad, but not even to think of he rebuilds the machine to, I guess, destroy Cray's business and eventually kill Cray. Doesn't want to ask Cray to build him a ship to go look for her.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think even with the opening scene with Callahan and Cray, Callahan goes, yeah, Cray, he always neglects his safety and science. But that being said, like you said, is interdimensional travel ever going to be safe? It kind of seems like it's sort of designed not to be. So, and like you said, his daughter was her own person. She chose to do that out of her own free will. But
even if it went badly, she was a pioneer, the first person to ever do that. So I mean, 100%. She would have been remembered in history.
Oh, completely.
But I feel like if Callahan is presumably going to sacrifice his freedom by committing this murder and then eventually presumably going to prison, he was willing to sacrifice his life to get revenge. So I don't know why he didn't risk his life to go and look for her. Like, it just seems ridiculous
silly,
to me,
doesn't it? Yeah, it does seem silly.
I know. I think we can both say that the animation in the final altercation especially is incredible, but the fight itself is a bit of a disappointing climax and it feels a bit out of place.
It does. I know it does. I think I've mentioned it does feel like a superhero movie towards the end, and that's a good thing. I think maybe by the very end with that end battle, it does feel like it feels like it needs an excuse for
feels
action.
Like a generic superhero movie.
It does. It absolutely does. And I think maybe I would have maybe liked to see like Tadashi come back in some sense. I don't know. Like, that would have been really. I don't know how the film could have excused that, but they never actually show him dying. I think, do they? They just see him walk into the building and then it blows up.
Yeah, you see him walk into the building and then there's the explosion. Mm-hmm. Do you feel that would have been as cheap as bringing Baymax back?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think I can understand from Disney's point of view, like if you kill off Baymax and Tadashi, that maybe be too much. So I can understand why they want to bring Baymax back. But I don't know, Tadashi I really missed out the film. He was probably one of my favorite characters up there with Tony Lemon, to be honest. I thought it was great.
How would you feel about him rebuilding Baymax, but he looks like Tadashi?
Oh, that would be strange though, wouldn't it? That'd be so weird. Like would he sound like Baymax as well? Or would he sound like
Yeah, I think so. It would be weird.
That would be so strange, wouldn't it? That would be so strange. You got any other points, Callum?
I've nothing further on the film. I'd like to hear your rating, please, man.
Well, I think this film is one of the strongest in Disney. It was one of my favorites growing up as well. And I loved like the superhero nature to it, and great cast of side characters. Like you said, probably the best ensemble in Disney films so far for me. Definitely up there. So I'd have to give it a 9 out of 10. One of my favorites for sure. What about yourself, man?
Yeah, I think that it's 90% strong. I think the final act is a little weak. I think it is a bit generic superhero film. But I think the death of Baymax massively makes up for that. It's incredibly poignant.
Agreed.
I just regret that they resurrected him.
Yeah.
Because we didn't in the end get a movie sequel, and I think they knew that it was a risk to make this film, and it probably wasn't going to result in a sequel. So I think they knew the risks, and they should have committed a little bit more. Agreed. But aside from that, a charming ensemble, fantastic voice work, fantastic animation, and I associate it with a really pleasant experience at the cinema. So I would also give it a 9 out of 10.
Nice one. I think it's one of our favorites growing up, and I don't know. It's going to be interesting when we reflect back on these Disney films, like what films have we each underrated or overrated? Because I look back and I think I gave generous ratings out in the early days way too much, especially probably Winnie the Pooh. I mean, definitely Winnie the Pooh looking back. The
10 out of 10, was it?
I think it was. Unfortunately, yeah. I think when I look back at quintessential Disney films, there are some ones that really stick out in my head, and there's ones that. So for me, when I'm reflecting on this, the ones that stick out in my head the most, the ones that I feel like are integral game changers, they'll always be the highest in my books, and I think this one definitely is up there in regards to that. Mm-hmm. Do you mind if I get my laptop charger? My laptop's a bit low. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's no worries.
Cheers, but I appreciate it. So yeah, the next film we're going to be talking about is Zootropolis, the third and final film of today. Now, this is one I hadn't seen before, but I heard a lot about. What about yourself, man?
Yeah, I hadn't seen this film either. I'd sort of had the consensus that it was a bit meh, so those were the expectations I had going in, and I was exceptionally surprised because this is a fantastic film.
Dude, this film is so good. It's so good. I think it really does feel like to me like a really much better version of Chicken Little. Shout out Abby Mallard. But it really does feel like Chicken Little, but just so much better, doesn't it? Like that animal universe where the animals behave like humans, but here it's got layers to it. It's got like a mystery going on, a detective mystery. It's incredible. It's one of my favorites so far, actually. Really surprising.
And if we want to quickly address the title, we're of course calling this film Zootropolis because that was the title here in the UK. Yeah. They for some reason couldn't trademark Zootopia here, but I feel like they could have saved themselves some like ADR and animation money just by naming it something completely different rather than having to change the name of the city within the movie internally to match the territory it's done. So the territory it's seen in.
In the American version, is the city still called Zootropolis or is it called Zootopia?
In the American version of the film, it's called Zootopia. Okay. So they actually in this movie, I thought going in that they just changed the title of the film, and in the movie they were still going to be talking about Zootopia.
Yeah.
But then I was surprised to hear that they'd actually internally changed the name of the city.
Yeah.
And like it is done seamlessly, I have to admit. Like you could not tell that was a thing.
It absolutely is.
It's just bizarre to me that they didn't just save money by calling it like, something police squad or something that also matched. I know what you mean. I know what you mean. I'm sure with like a 5-minute spitball between the writers, you could have come up with an equally admirable title.
Yeah, sorry, that was my phone just dropped there, I guess. It kind of feels like I remember to me, wasn't there like Avengers? The original Avengers film was called Avengers Assemble in the UK and Ireland, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Which is quite strange.
It's a bit odd.
Yeah, it is a bit odd, isn't it? But I wonder why. I don't know, but. I suppose the main...
My favorite one in other territories, Amazing Spider-Man 2, Rise of Electro.
Is it actually? No way. Is it actually?
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, in Australia, Germany, all of those places.
Mad. One thing in this film is there's a big sort of, conflict between, the prey and the predators, and it's sort of obviously with what's her name? Judy Hopps, the main character of the film, who I think is excellent, by the way. it's sort of, a lot of people say she's sort of discriminated against in the police force because she's a bunny. You know, rabbits can't be police officers. I kind of got me thinking, surely bunnies would make great police officers. You know, in a high speed chase, you'd want a bunny or a hare or something in there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you know, there's of course like, you know, a lot of like the whole film really, you know, the sort of turning on the predators, you know, at the midpoint of the film, it's clearly meant as an allegory for racism, you know,
Yes,
and
yes,
it's
yes.
present throughout, and you know, there's discrimination, you know, within the police force, discrimination, you know, within the entire city, you know, of the predator minority, and yeah, it is. I think it's oddly handled, you know, because they do present at the start that the you know the predators thousands of years ago, you know, were dangerous beings. So for Judy to say that they do have the biological capability, she didn't say, you know, all predators are dangerous. She said the only ones that are turning are predators, and it may have something to do with their biology. And you know, for the context that we see at the beginning of the film, that's a fair comment to make, I think. And it's
Yeah,
I
it
don't think
is.
it's appropriate to make it a, you know, a comparison to racism, because if someone said anything, you know, of that, you know, kind of judgment towards any kind of, you know, ethnic community, that is objectively racism. That is a horrible, disgusting, inaccurate thing to say. But
Completely.
here, you know, because we have the context of what animals were like thousands of years before this universe, you know, I don't feel like it's an appropriate comparison.
No, I think you're spot on there, but it doesn't really fit right for me either. And yeah, and I think the fact that it's such a major part of that film, isn't it? You know, I think Judy goes into the idea of Zootropolis, and she kind of think this is you know, all my dreams are going to come true. Everyone loves each other here, and that's quite really not the case. You know, by the opening of the film, and you know, I think you're right. You know, I don't know. I think the film's message and intent is maybe great. I'm not sure in the execution though. I think maybe it had a good
Yeah,
idea.
I hope I've got across what I mean.
No, I
That,
know
you
what you
know,
mean. Oh yes,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
ethnic discrimination of humans is not the same as, you know, biological discrimination of animals. You know,
Mm.
so to compare them is insulting, I think.
Yeah, I think if you're gonna use like a racism sort of storyline in a film, it would be very strange to have it in a Disney animated film for a start, I suppose, just given the severity of those themes. It might not be in line with you know, some of the you know, more positive aspects of these Disney films. But I think, you know, tales like that of discrimination because based on skin color, I mean, that should definitely be, you know, talked about more and condemned a lot more. I think, you know, I don't think people should shy
Absolutely.
away. I don't think people should shy away from addressing those themes. I mean, it's sort of loosely hinted at in Princess and the Frog. It's not really loosely hinted at. It is shown, I suppose, to an extent in Princess and the Frog. Do you know what I mean? In certain films like that, and I don't know, man. It's one thing in society like that really grinds my gears, man. Honest, and I'm sure it does a lot of people, to be honest. But honestly, it sickens me. But that bit, we'll not get into it too much. But what I think in this film,
Yeah, if you want to hear our thoughts on, you know, films that discuss race, hear what we had to say about Gone with the Wind
Gone
and
with the
our
Wind,
classic
yeah, I
American films,
think
because
there's
I
been
think
quite
that's
a
probably
few
the
actually,
most
hasn't there?
that's probably the most overt covering of racism that we've talked about, and you know, it's pretty
Yeah.
much our disgust over
Oh, dude,
sort of portrayals like are present in that
it really
film.
makes my blood boil, mate. It really does,
And
honestly.
here, you know, we did say that we really, you know, enjoyed and respected the film, and I think that is for the mystery and conspiracy within the film,
Yeah,
not necessarily
100%,
its handling of its message. So,
100%.
you know, I think I really enjoyed the film, but that was one thing that dragged it down a little for me, just because
No, I agree.
I don't think it's an appropriate metaphor.
I absolutely agree, but I think you're spot on. And you know, one character who I think is maybe one of my favorites in this modern, you know, collection of Disney films is Judy. I think she's absolutely incredible. And you know, that being said, the voice cast in this film as well, accompanying her, is fantastic. I mean, we've got Jason Bateman as Nick. He's incredible. Shakira, I think, is Gazelle, isn't
Giselle.
she? That's
Mm-hmm.
incredible. Idris Elba as the police chief as well, and then Jenny Slate and J.K. Simmons and Octavia Spencer. I mean, the cast, it's just incredible, isn't it? I mean, I think the
You can't
standout.
get better.
No, I think for me the standout voice performance wise is either Idris Elba or Jenny Slate. They just have a really great
Oh,
exuberance in their voice. I think it's incredible. Any
yeah.
standouts from you?
For me, I think it's Jennifer Goodwin as Judy Hopps, because I think she just has that. I think she has the youthful spirit and
Yeah,
energy of, you know,
it's a really good
sort of a
shout.
bright-eyed, optimistic person who then sort of gets, you know, I think that's sort of that is the kind of, you know, typical police officer, you know, first day. You
Yeah,
know,
it
she
is.
she
Yeah,
reminded me a lot of the character of Nicholas Angel from Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, no,
Where
it did.
kind of
Actually, really good shot. Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with a certain expectation that is, not met, but they're at their top tier and they're sort of not treated as they should be.
That's just such a
And,
smart
she
point,
had
actually.
this,
Yeah.
she did have this wide-eyed optimism that I really warmed to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely, bud, completely. And see, one thing I really can't praise enough about this film is like the city of Zootropolis itself. It's so amazing, like that universe that's created in such a short space of time. Like this film's under 2 hours long. The universe that it creates, it's got like these districts, the rainforest, the Sahara, the snowy area, like just for the different animals there. It's so well done, and like it just looks incredible. Like it's a marvel of animation, it really is. And yeah, I mean, but we'll get into the different references as well. But having just watched the Godfather trilogy, there's a fantastic Godfather reference in there as well, isn't there?
Yeah. I agree with you. I think this is potentially the best world building I've ever seen in an animated film.
I agree.
Especially surrounding, the meeting of like the societal needs of each animal. As you mentioned, the different districts, and even the thing that really drew my eye was when the train comes to pick Judy up, and there's different sizes of doors, for each appropriate animal. And I really don't think though that with predators, having evolved, they now are not predators. I really don't think there would be enough available vegetables in the world to keep them all fed.
Yeah, that's a really smart point. Like, I wonder how like the sources of food there. That'll be interesting. Like, I think this movie, I really hope there's a sequel to it. Is there one that's been announced?
I haven't heard anything about being in the works, but I think it was a successful film, and it's narratively, like if you're just talking about the quality of the construction of the mystery, is one of the best quality that I've ever seen.
One thing I really like about it, Callum, is that you see a clear evolution of that narrative. Do you know what I mean? Like it goes down one path, it subverts it really nicely, and then goes back to it. I think that's what makes a really great mystery film. We've talked about Knives Out off podcast. The one thing, a strength of that film is that it goes in different directions, but it keeps that narrative relatively. It's a very difficult film, I would imagine, to review because there's so many twists and turns in there. But I think here it keeps it simple, it keeps it concise, but it also has twists in there what you wouldn't necessarily expect, and also deals with themes that I wouldn't expect. With drugs and stuff like that. They don't go out of the way to call them drugs, but it's pretty much like a secret underground sort of like a sort of pharmaceutical narcotics thing. I don't know what they're running there, but it's quite dark.
Yeah, and then they even reference, they say that Walter and Jesse are on their way, which are the characters from Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad, yeah. I know.
And I think I have to say this may be the best animation I've ever seen in my life. In a world populated by animals, for realism, having that many individual characters, I think realism is important, and I think it's spectacular. You can see each individual hair on Judy's ears. I just think it's incredible.
I agree. It's definitely up there with Coco for me. I think Coco really is top notch for me. When I think, I know this is such a giveaway early on, like reviewing films. When I look at my favorite animated film, I mean, I think Coco is my favorite of all time. If I'm honest, it's got to be up there.
Seriously,
I love Coco so much. I love that. But yeah, I think here the animation definitely rivals Coco, to be honest with you. And I think maybe extra props has to be given here in regards to, like you said, individual characters. There's giraffes, there's elephants, there's hippos, there's rhinos, there's bears, there's anything you can imagine. And of course, there's a hilarious gag involving a sloth, which I think is actually, it maybe plays on it a bit too much, because I was checking my watch. I was checking my watch, like, come on. But no, it is quite funny, to be honest. Like, you can see the cues in the DMV. It is quite funny.
I mean, yeah, I kind of would like to say that, just visually you get the visual gag that it's sloths responsible, but then the joke is actually that they're very fast, since, evolution, it's been an evolution of thousands of years. That would have been, maybe would have played a bit better, because it is a long joke. And, I've mentioned sort of Judy's, wide-eyed optimism about, joining the police force. And, when you join, let's say the NYPD in America, you have to be a beat cop for about 6 months minimum, I think, before you can even, have the capability to, get the qualifications to eventually become a detective.
Yeah.
And Judy is like grousing about, doing parking duty on her first day. Like, she's top of the academy, and that's all well and good. But everybody knows, like, you learn on the job. Like, it was just shocking to me that, she wants to pick up a missing persons case, first day.
Yeah, and it's funny you mentioned that sort of police narrative as well. One YouTuber that kind of helped us, blow up, so to speak, in terms of subscribers was Mark Goldbridge. To be honest, so
Mm-hmm.
shout out Mark Goldbridge. He's not listening. He used to be a police.
No,
Did you know he used to be a police detective?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I find that
I
really
heard about that
interesting. You should
on
listen.
Jack Mate's Happy Hour.
Yeah, it's a good episode. Yeah, check that one out as well. But I actually find, is the police a career that would interest you? Because it seems really interesting.
Yeah, I have given it some consideration, and it's a very dangerous position to be a police officer in Northern Ireland, and
Yes.
you have to carry a gun here, which I think would maybe probably turn me off of the idea. But I think detective work would probably interest me.
Yeah.
But I think on the streets with that level of risk maybe doesn't appeal to me.
Yeah. No,
Was
I
there
know.
any interest from you?
I actually am. I don't know. It really does intrigue me. I think there's a. I'll not reveal the name of this person, but I think there is one of our a person we know in our year group from school. He actually works for the police. I'll tell you off pod, but I don't know. I think it's a really interesting sort of career because like my uncle used to be in the police and stuff like that, and he seemed to really like it. So I don't know. It's obviously when you hear stories of Mark Goldbridge and the detective stuff, it kind of seems like a little bit dark, when you see murders and stuff when you have to investigate that. But I don't know. Like obviously, I'm sure you get your bad days as a police officer, of course you do. But I don't know. It seems interesting.
I really don't think I could shoot anyone.
No, I don't think so. I could shoot maybe like a target, like just
Yeah.
Yeah, but shooting someone.
Yeah, when
I
it
don't
comes to
know.
like skill, I think I would be capable of it, but I don't think I could bring myself to do it.
Dude, I just killing someone is not for me. That sounds
Yes.
like a
Yeah.
movie makes no context, imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just I don't know. I'd hate to do it. I'd hate to do it.
Yeah, because I just don't think I'm capable of it. So I would be a weak link. So I wouldn't want to bring down. I wouldn't want to be the weak link.
I'd imagine though there's a lot of cops who feel that way too. Like there's bound to be loads of cops even in our country that carry a gun but would never really use it. Like they probably would say, yeah, I'll use it, but like they'd be very hesitant to, I'd imagine, be it religious grounds or just for the moral grounds. Do you know what I mean? It's one of those where I don't know. I feel like it's a bit cruel to kind of have that regulation in the place that you have to carry a gun. Like you must use it if someone's being threatened. Like it seems like a very sort of strict sort of law.
Yeah, because the gun, a gun for a police officer is, for your safety.
Mm-hmm.
Or that's the mentality behind it. That it's to protect yourself. If the person doesn't peacefully surrender. So I feel like if it's an issue of your own safety, you should maybe be able to say no to that. But I suppose there is the issue of you protecting others from that potentially dangerous criminal.
Dude, I remember.
I suppose I'm just not built for the life.
I'm gonna say I remember like a couple of years ago, maybe less. Like me and you were in town one day, and there was like some sort of, I don't know if there was a security or something, but like we were walking past police officers with like UMPs and G36s. Like these were like proper guns. Like, do you remember seeing them? They're like proper hardcore assault rifles.
I don't remember, but I would say the first time I saw like a big gun in person that I can remember is at the airport. When we came back from. When we came back from England last year, they were carrying like
that's what I'm thinking of.
AK-47s or something.
These were big guns, man.
Yeah.
Like, you don't really realize how big they are, but like you'd imagine those things feel properly powerful when you hold one of those. Like, but yeah, I suppose that kind of does relate to this film because obviously the police is a big narrative of this one. But yeah, any more remarks from me? But I'll chip in where I can.
In the end, I sort of, I'm not usually a fan of like the con artist type, and I think this is probably the first time where we've talked about that kind of, archetype of a character. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I sort of very much warmed to the character of Nick, and it ends up being a very heartwarming friendship. Yeah. And I think it accurately portrays that the best of friends can be very different from each other, and that's usually where the best ones lie.
Yeah, I agree, and Jason Bateman is an incredible actor. I think I think I remember first seeing him in Hancock back in the day. And I absolutely love that movie. It's one of my favorite sort of superhero non-Marvel DC ones. Have you seen it?
Yeah, I think it's a bit gratuitous without depth or meaning. But aside from that, I think where the criticisms people have with it, I think it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, I know Jason Bateman's very talented. Like he's a very well known in like Ozark, and I haven't seen that one on Netflix. Mm-hmm. Have you seen it?
No, he just got nominated for Best Actor at the Golden Globes, and nice it was nominated for Best Series, I believe. So, I hope he gets a lot of success there because he's a brilliant actor.
Mm-hmm. No, he is. He absolutely is. Yeah. Any more remarks, bud?
Well, you brought up the fact that we have, of course, seen the Godfather trilogy very recently.
Yeah.
And we're introduced to this gangster character, Mr. Big.
Mr. Big.
And it was beautiful just based on how soon after we'd finished the Godfather films that we saw this.
Yeah, he actually sounded a bit like Brando as well.
Yeah, no, it was a solid impression.
It was really good. Like, he's got the slick back, he's got the bushy eyebrows, he's got the whole look, he's got like the rose on the jacket. It's absolutely incredible. And I did expect that kind of subversion, because all these like big muscular bears walk into the room, and then there's just little, I don't know what he is, like a little mouse or something, or I don't know. But
I think so.
Yeah, no, that was a hilarious subversion, man. It's made so much more better, because literally a couple of days ago we just finished the trilogy. It was fantastic.
And we've talked about the character of Nick, and we've talked a lot about a few serious topics so far, and I'll continue with that, because his backstory of being bullied out of the Scouts really upset me, and I think any kind of bullying in films does. And do you think, I was wondering, do you think that this kind of thing should be presented in films made for kids who are potentially going through the same thing? Like, do you think it does more harm than good, sort of presenting bullying in such a like in a an evocative
matter of
kind of manner
way? Yeah, I think it is important, dude, to be honest with you. It does have its pros and cons, but I think when you have characters like Spider-Man, Peter Parker, who part of, the quintessential nature of Peter Parker is that he's underestimated. People don't like him, really. We see that in certain films. It doesn't really go into it as much in, the Amazing Spider-Man or the Spider-Man Homecoming films, but I think especially with the old Raimi films, you get to see how Peter Parker, people just shit in his life unnecessarily.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why I love the character. Like, he just feels like a guy who just has everyday troubles, like you and me, or just the average person watching. I think here it really does stand to reason. Like, it was a smart, heartfelt inclusion. And I wanted to ask you, buddy, sort of in reference to that, what is your, this is going to sound like a very weirdly phrased question, but like, what is your favorite bullying scene in film? I don't mean favorite as in like you enjoyed watching someone get bullied, of course, but I mean like, what do you think is the most well executed,
thought-provoking,
exactly,
most emotional?
One springs to my mind straight away, but I'll wait to you. So.
Well, yeah, I think that I think Spider-Man probably doesn't come into it, because I think it's more silly now watching that than it is emotionally invoking. Here I felt something here. It was bad. And quite honestly, I think if we include like I think I sort of brought up the question, but I think that this does add valuable context to the character of Nick, and it makes you feel something for him.
It does.
So I do have an answer for this, and it's because I was going through what I felt was something similar at the time, and it's a film that made me very emotional. Because it was a time where I didn't have very many friends, and it was sort of there's a scene in the film that made me very upset, because I felt a bit sad that at the time I didn't have too many friends. The film for me that has the most emotionally response, the biggest emotional response for me is Scooby-Doo: The Mystery Begins, and it's how Shaggy is bullied by his fellow classmates, and it's less so how he's bullied and more that just everybody seems to dislike him for no reason, even though he's clearly a really lovable guy, and it just makes me really sad. And and anytime I watch that movie as a child, there'd be the moment where he finally unites with Scooby. I know there's the scene where they're playing like frisbee in the park, and I would cry, because I wanted something like that.
I'm sorry to hear that, mate. I'm sorry. I'm proud of you that you can feel like you can open up a lot about that in the podcast. Like,
yeah, I didn't want to say in that episode, because I was like, I'll sound a bit of a dickhead, but like,
I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Proud of you. Like,
what will be the one that comes to your mind?
I think for me, there's two. The one that lesser comes to my mind, but it's still there, is when like Clark Kent gets bullied in Man of Steel. Like, people just bully him for absolutely no reason in that film. To be fair, it is quite funny when they're like, "Hey, what's up, Dick Splash?" And then, like, the bus just goes around. But like, I don't know.
Yeah, like the quips are weak, but it is violent.
Yeah, I think the one for me that really is emotional is like the one in, I don't know if you've seen Central Intelligence, but when like the Dwayne The Rock Johnson's character is like singing in the shower, and then like he's just thrown out naked and everyone laughs at him apart from Kevin Hart and what's his girlfriend in that movie called, who's Cecilia in the Flash?
It's Daniela something.
Daniela, we'll call her Daniela. But yeah, it's a really heartfelt scene, because like everyone just is laughing at it. Even the teachers are laughing at it in that scene. It's heartbreaking. but yeah, I think it is important for bullying scenes to be included in films, like because they show the hardships of those and maybe kids or anyone. So I think it is maybe a bit of a misconception that bullying can just happen when you're a kid. Like I think bullying can happen in the workplace as well. Like if
Yeah.
Especially in adulthood, like there's a lot of you do hear a lot of these stories of people like where their boss at work is just needlessly mean to them. You know what I mean? It's a thing that continues in adulthood, and funny enough, Jason Bateman's also in Central Intelligence, that movie. I forgot he's the bully in that scene in that movie. Oh my god, I forgot about that. But yeah, I'm proud of you, mate, for sharing that story. Like I'm proud of you, mate.
I mean, like I obviously I didn't have it too badly, in comparison to all the people you see in these movies, and of course everybody in real life. But it was a bit of a tough time.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I'm here now with Best Bud.
Oh, thanks,
like
man.
it was.
Appreciate it.
You were honestly like a very bright spark in my life.
Mate, likewise, and you to me, mate. You've improved me as a person tenfold. So thank you for that. And yeah, that was an emotional movie moment there. That was lovely.
Yeah.
But yeah, any more remarks for you in Zootropolis, man?
Well, we've talked about how Nick was bullied as a child, but then we of course see that Judy actually suffered like a vicious attack by a character called Gideon Grey, from her childhood, and I just wish I was as forgiving as Judy could be to him, because if I'm honest, massive grudge holder. If anyone crosses me, like I'm not a particular forgiving person. People in the past, I cut them out.
Dude, like it's one of those things where like I think it's a mindset thing as well. I like I don't I would never like criticize anyone for holding a grudge. It's not like I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if that's how people feel. Like it's important that they allow their emotions to that they don't feel like they have to conceal their emotions or feel like they can't say something, or feel something. So, I don't hold a grudge against anyone holding a grudge, so to speak.
Yeah, because it is freer to be more forgiving, but sometimes people just don't deserve it.
Yeah, and yeah, I think you're right. It's an equally valid reason, to be honest, man, as well. And yeah, I mean, I think one of the things about Disney films in general, not all of them, but most of them, like they can help us have these conversations about themes like that. Like that is one thing I will credit Disney and Pixar for. Like they always, for the most part, discuss themes that are still relevant now, even back when it was like the 40s, 50s, and 60s. I granted, there's some stinkers in there, of course. There's 58 films, not all of them are going to be perfect. But I think one of the strengths that Disney has really had recently in these podcasts, where I think on the whole, the batches are slowly maybe not getting better, but they're being more consistent. I think the last couple of batches have been very, very strong, and I think ever since the turning point of the Renaissance, they've been very, very strong. So it's always great to see films that make you think. For me anyway, there's always the strongest films. So I mean, and Zootopia is definitely one of those that makes you think.
And I think bullying is one of the best handled themes, because I think Inside Out doesn't do a lot right, but you can listen to our review of that in our Pixar playlist.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember what episode it was, but I'm sure you'll be able to find it.
Probably one of the
yeah, and we had a few issues with that, but I think its portrayal of emotions was something that sort of led to quite a deep discussion that we had on that. So if you want to listen to that, you can go right ahead. Mm-hmm. If you prefer more candid, potentially more emotional chat. Mm-hmm. But we talked a lot about the conspiracy within this film, and it seems that this follows the trend of the answer to the conspiracy never seems as great as the setup. The answer in this that was flowers all along sort of gave me fugitive vibes, where you find out that what seemed like a senseless act of violence, or what was going to be something a bit more deep, it was just to do with drugs trying to get through a clinical trial. I know it was a real letdown, and I felt a bit like that here.
It's one of those things, man. Like nothing really crushes the soul more when you have a film that is building. A film is so good up to a certain point and then it falls off a cliff. Like there's nothing more soul crushing than a film that builds up to that kind of suspenseful moment and then just never delivers. That's one of the things that like it's always a thing that it always concerns me in a film, to be honest. Like there's a lot of films that have come out recently that have fallen into that trap, or rather that I've watched recently that have fallen into that trap. And I think Zootropolis, it hasn't done it as bad as some other films that I've watched recently, but it's one of those things, man, that really, as I said, crushes the soul, to be honest.
And this film follows the trend of Big Hero 6 and Frozen of having, a surprise villain And
It
we
does.
find
It
out that the
does.
character of Deputy Mayor Bellwether, wants to unleash the savage, biology of these predators, in order to, turn the community against them,
Yeah.
and then to usurp, Mayor Lionheart. But you
Hmm.
would have thought like Mayor Lionheart would have been her first target. You only really have to prove that
Yeah,
he's
because
dangerous to
he's a
get his
lion.
job,
Yeah.
to turn everyone around.
Yeah, yeah, I know, and because she's deputy mayor, if he was out of the picture, surely she would have risen to mayor anyway. So
Yeah,
it's kind of strange. Yeah, that's a really good point actually, because he's a lion, isn't he? That's weird.
yeah. I mean,
About
because
that.
she, you know, you know, uh, of course, she wanted to sort of turn the public mentality, but I
Yeah.
feel like any terrible person who's able to get in a position of power can probably sway the masses.
Hmm.
Which of course we've seen in recent history, that
Yeah, in real life.
that's
Yeah.
fully possible, that you can find enough supporters. I mean, as soon as they found out that it was only predators who were being turned, they turned on a dime, even on
Oh yeah. Oh
their
yeah. Yeah.
close friends.
Massively.
So I mean, I feel like she could have done that, with the power of her words, without this, whole conspiracy.
Agreed.
But Mayor Lionheart, is sort of. I think by the end we see that he's been imprisoned, and he says that he wrongfully imprisoned these people. And quite honestly, I don't know that he did anything wrong. If a human got rabies, they would get quarantined.
Yeah, that's
But
true.
this is a next level of they're not even capable of speech anymore. So
I
I really
felt
don't
bad
know
for
that
has
he
actually.
did do anything wrong, because
Yeah, I
he
felt a
has
little bad.
no reason to believe that this isn't contagious, and he
It's a really
himself
good
is a
point.
predator. So I feel like it was, of course, in his interest, to take them away from their families and keep them hidden. But
Hmm.
also, it was public safety. So I mean, I don't
Oh
really know
yeah,
that he did do
completely.
anything wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I felt bad for him. I think the fact that with the deputy mayor, like the fact that it's Jenny Slates, who's like the sweetest voice in Hollywood, I would say. The fact that like she's the
Hmm.
villain, it kind of made it even more sort of like heartbreaking as well. Like Jenny Slate's one of my faves. But yeah, I mean, yeah, it was a good twist. It was a good twist. Yeah, any remarks to wrap up with from yourself?
Nothing else from me.
No worries.
Anything
I'd
from
love
you?
to hear. I know nothing from me, Cal. I'd love to hear your rating on this one.
So I think this film has incredible animation, some of the best I've ever seen. I opt, when it comes to a Disney animated film, I opt for realism, because you've mentioned Coco, but I feel like that by design, isn't meant to look like real humans. It's almost like a claymation kind of style
It
aesthetic.
is. It is. Yeah.
But here, they're trying to get like the intimate details of what an evolved animal would look like, whilst of course maintaining the animated side of it. And the voice performance, I think, are also incredible, and it generated two characters that I really rooted for, and a friendship that I thought was beautiful. I think there were great building blocks here of a great conspiracy that just became a little bit too predictable. But in the end, it's a kids' film. Like what can you expect? It needs to be. This is the first sort of crime Disney film that we've seen, and it needed to be, you know, followable for a child. So I mean, you can't expect the world of this kind of film. So I thought, for what it was trying to achieve, it did it really well. I think the metaphor was misjudged. Completely. I think they were trying to add a bit of commentary, but I think with the context of the film, it wasn't an appropriate metaphor.
Yeah.
So I would think that lessens the enjoyment for me a little. It made me think like, oh, this doesn't seem right. Maybe I'm reading
Yeah.
too much into it. I don't know,
I know what you mean. No,
but
I know what you mean
I'll do some
completely.
further research on it. But it didn't feel right to me. So I'll probably give the film an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I think I love what you're saying there, buddy. I agree completely. I think this is one that really, out of every Disney film we've watched so far, this has certainly surprised me the most. I think, I expected to go in and think this was really overrated, and it's not. I think it's actually incredible. Animation, superb. The voice cast, I mean, spot on. One of the best, I think, so far. I mean, we haven't even, mentioned really Idris Elba or J.K. Simmons, but they're incredible too. And I mean, a really refreshing movie as well. Looking back, I mean, although Chicken Little's got Abby Mallard, this is just so much better than like a Chicken Little story where, you know what I mean? So I think it's got to be a 9 out of 10 for me as well. But really, really strong batch today. Really good job. And yeah, I suppose just before we wrap up to today's Disney podcast, we can go into a little segment we haven't done in a while called Future Episode Chat, which hopefully the viewers will be aware with. So what's going to be coming up later on, this week?
So the next podcast episode that we'll definitely be covering will be To All the Boys I've Loved Before, those first two films, so that we can then go on to review Always and Forever, which will be coming out next Friday.
Nice
But this Friday, there is another Netflix new release, which is called Malcolm and Marie, a black and white film starring, I think it's John David Washington and Zendaya. So I'm really looking forward to that. I don't think it'll be good. It's black and white, so I already have. It is like I think it's in the vein of like Marriage Story of an unraveling of a romance. So it'll be interesting, but I already am against it because it's black and white. But it's set in modern times, so it's again like a movie being like, look at how fun and interesting we are. Give us awards, please. Look how quirky we are.
Like
that's
like
how it really comes across to me.
To be fair, Mank was
and Mank was that was era appropriate. But if this is present day, which I believe it is, it's just look at us, give us awards, please. Look, we're special. So that'll be coming. We'll be recording that on Saturday, and then that'll be coming out when we also talk about WandaVision. After that, we haven't really discussed the future mini reviews, but there's a new Korean film on Netflix that comes out this Friday that I thought we could maybe talk about.
Cool.
It's called Space Sweepers. I don't know.
I
don't know how good it'll be.
I
watched the trailer and I don't know. I think it's maybe just the different countries edit their trailers different. So I don't know. It was an unappealing trailer, but I don't know if that is a true testament, to the quality of the film, because I just don't think it's, the kind of trailer we're used to.
Yeah, and of course, in the next couple of weeks, we'll be concluding this Disney series, which we've started back July in 2019. And forgive us, it has taken a lot longer than expected, but there's been movies pushed back, delayed. There's been, there's been a lot of TV show premieres that have become podcasts, and we generally have tried to get this out as sort of quick as possible, without the same time getting burnt out as well. So it's been a really good series. It's been our longest one yet, 15 episodes, I think. It's been.
That's 15 episodes. Done over about 7 months. I don't think that's too bad. Yeah,
that's not too bad. And yeah, of course, please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment your thoughts on any of these Disney films down below. And stay tuned next week where we conclude the series. So yeah, hope you thanks very much, Callum, for today and for the birthday presents. Appreciate it, bud. Appreciate it. And yeah, hope you guys are all safe and well. Hope your family and friends are all safe and well too. Take care, everyone, and catch you later.
Bye-bye.